before I started searching for it. This song is called Opportunities. Let's make lots of money. I love it. It's perfect for business to business. Hi everyone, I'm AJ Wilcox. As Chad said, I fell in love with LinkedIn ads about 14 years ago. My story was I started out as being an SEO and a Google Ads guy, and I got hired into a company. It was a B2B company before their IPO. I was the first digital marketer, and I went in on my very first day to talk to the CMO, my new boss, and she was like, hey, everything that you were planning on doing, go ahead, do it. But just so you know, we started a pilot with LinkedIn ads about 2 weeks ago. See what you can do with it. And I was like, what is a LinkedIn ads? I have no idea. But I took my same strategies that worked so well on Google ads, and I did exactly the same thing on LinkedIn. And lo and behold, after about 2 weeks of advertising, the sales team came up and said, hey, AJ, we don't know what you're doing over here, but we are fighting over your leads. Please keep it up. I was very curious. So I went into our CRM system, started looking at these leads, like where are they coming from? Without fail, every single one had come from LinkedIn ads. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So I ended up investing and then continuing to invest in LinkedIn ads because, yes, it's expensive as ad platforms go, but the quality and results that the sales team were seeing, they were saying, we need more of this, keep going. After I actually grew that to become LinkedIn's largest spending account worldwide, and after 2.5 years of that, I went and started B2 Linked. And we're an ad agency that LinkedIn ads is literally all we do. Very cool. Been doing that almost 10 years at this point. So just by raise of hands, and don't worry, I'm not going to call anyone out, who in here is actively managing LinkedIn ads? Okay, handful of hands. All right, so this is my advanced presentation. So I'm probably going to skip some slides, and I'm probably going to glide over a few topics. But if we have time at the end, I would love to take your questions, just in case there's anything I gloss over where you're like, yeah, I want to know a little bit more about that. I'm from the beautiful state of Utah. It's a little hard to get to Ohio from, or at least Lima from there. And yeah, Chad said I like go-karts. I like everything that goes fast. That's me. All right, so very first off, when you go to run LinkedIn ads, you've got to convince someone with budget. If you're not the decision maker, you have to convince someone. And it's actually kind of hard to convince someone like, hey, I should be investing in this platform that is quite expensive compared to other ad platforms. I'm going to pay $10 to $16 per click when I can pay $4 to $5 a click on Meta. And it can be really hard. You pay like it's a bottom of funnel kind of activity, but then you get traffic that's closer to being top of funnel kind of traffic. So it's a little bit risky. All right, so do you risk it? Why is it worth the risk? It is because of the quality. There have been some really cool changes that have happened the last year and a half. And the very biggest one that I want to point you towards is thought leader ads. Has anyone in here run thought leader ads? Or at least you know what they are? Okay, I'm seeing some hands. This is really cool. And I actually can't see my slides super well, so I'm going to dump them on there and then just kind of riff. Thought leader ads, let me take you back. All the advertising that you've been able to do on LinkedIn has represented your company. But when you're on LinkedIn and you're scrolling and you see an ad or a post from a company that you've never heard of before, what do? You keep scrolling. But when you see something from a person, you go, ooh, do I know this person? And because of that, it makes for a huge difference in the interaction of your posts when you are promoting a company post versus an individual's post. That's what thought leader ads are, is they're the ability to promote a person's post. So average click-through rates when you're advertising a company post are like 0.5%, 0.5% usually. As soon as you start doing boosting an individual's post that we call thought leader ads, we're usually seeing click-through rates in the 2 to 8% range. I mean, we're talking orders of magnitude, like 10x in a lot of cases. Very cool. So thought leader ads, definitely consider, because you get much better engagement. And we can retarget all of the people who interact with our thought leader ads and target them with something different down the road. We also have document ads. Same raise of hands, who's used document ads or even document posts on LinkedIn, because they're something quite similar. Okay, some hands. These document posts are very engaging when you do them right. If all you do is you take your 9-page PDF and upload it into a document ad, nobody wants to keep scrolling and just seeing a wall of text, especially on mobile. But if you make it very engaging, one big point on every slide, which is what I obviously didn't do on my slides here, it becomes very engaging and you end up with engagement rates that are like 2 to 11%. Pretty amazing. Take advantage of these, especially at the top of your funnel, where your goal is to get people to engage with your brand and with your employees so that you can then retarget them and keep moving them down the funnel. All right, I'm gonna teach you, the whole premise of this talk is really like, you're already spending on LinkedIn, I'm gonna cut your prices in half. Literally let you get double the traffic, double the leads, double the ROI without allocating any additional budget. Here's how you do it. It's a whole workflow. What you do is when you go to launch your first campaign, LinkedIn's gonna make all of these recommendations. One of the recommendations they do when you get down to the bidding and budgeting section, they're gonna say, hey, the default way to pay for traffic on LinkedIn is called maximum delivery bidding. Maximum delivery bidding is exactly what it sounds like. It is whatever your daily budget is, LinkedIn is going to bid as high as it takes to spend that entire budget during the day. And sometimes, actually more often than not, they will overspend that budget by 50%. So I will tell you, LinkedIn's maximum delivery bidding is the most expensive way to pay for your traffic 90% of the time. So the next option down is called cost cap bidding. Ignore that. The third option is actually hidden. The third option says show additional options, and when you click that line, it reveals only a single option. So LinkedIn has hidden the one-line option of manual bidding behind a click placeholder that takes up one line. I mean, literally, they're showing their colors here. They do not want you to use manual bidding, but this is the cheapest way for you to pay for your traffic 90% of the time. So when you use this, LinkedIn's also going to give you this suggested bid or suggested bid range. They'll say, other advertisers like you are bidding $17 a click or between $18 and $64 per click. Right off the bat, don't listen to it. Those numbers are very appropriate if you are a Fortune 500 company who are spending multiple 6 figures a month on LinkedIn ads or into the 7 figures, great. Yeah, they usually have to bid in those ranges. But when you are very first starting out, especially with smaller budgets, ignore it, it's total bunk. What I do is I jump straight to like $6 a click or $7 a click. And I also set my daily budget really high. So let's say for a campaign, I actually want to spend about $50 a day. I'm gonna set my daily budget at like 200. The reason why is because based off of where my bid is, that's actually gonna tell me how aggressively I'm going to get traffic for the day. So if I bid $6 per click, for instance, and I let it go for 2 or 3 days, and then I find out, oh, it looks like I spend about $23 a day on average. I know that's less than the $50 I want to spend, so I'm going to increase that. I might jump up to $8 per click or $8.50, $9, whatever it is. When I get to that point where it's naturally spending the $50 a day I want, that's where I'm going to take my daily budget, lower it down, and then it acts like a safety net where, like, if it overspends, I'm not going to lose my job or budget or anything like that. That is by far the easiest way to save money on LinkedIn ads. You will get the traffic for the cheapest amount that LinkedIn will give it to you based off of your audience's engagement, your budget, and the performance of your ads and your creative. Okay. This is the process. You first run this for 2 to 4 business days is what I generally like. If you hit your budget, then, and actually I'll show this on the slides. If you hit your budget, it means you were probably bidding too aggressively and you can lower. If you don't hit your budget and you want to, you can go and incrementally increase those bids. That is the workflow that you can go through every time. Now, this sounds like a lot of babysitting when you very first launch a campaign, but I'll tell you, you're only checking on it once every like 2 to 3 business days. And so it doesn't take a lot. And then once you've found out where the bid of that particular campaign is, you usually don't have to mess with it too much. You're making wide bidding changes of like $1 up or $1 down at the beginning. Later on, you only have to adjust by like 20 cents, 30 cents. So here is my rule based off of click-through rates. If you launch an ad and it's getting less than 0.5% click-through rate, there's probably something wrong. This is below LinkedIn's benchmark. You may have missed your audience, or your creative doesn't speak to them, or something. I would pause at that point and reevaluate, what am I doing? But if you happen to get in that range that's like 0.5% to 1%, you're doing great. This is where these bidding adjustments will get you the best traffic and the best optimizations. But if you happen to be in the lucky, what we found to be about 10% of campaigns, you can get campaigns that get over a 1% click-through rate. When you're over 1%, that's when maximum delivery bidding becomes cheaper than bidding manually. So what I'll do is I'll start out by bidding manually, and if my campaign gets over a 1% click-through rate for multiple days in a row, I go, this is when I switch over to maximum delivery, and it's amazing, doesn't require babysitting, and my effective cost per click is actually less than what it would be otherwise if I were even bidding manually. So that's what you want to do. If you follow that workflow, that's always going to get you the cheapest traffic from LinkedIn. Very cool. Now, one thing I do want to point out here on the slide, it says specifically your link click-through rate. Because depending on the objective that you choose on your LinkedIn ads, LinkedIn is going to change the definition of what a click is. If you're using the website visits objective, which is my favorite if you're sending traffic somewhere, then your click-through rate is only people who are clicking on your call to action on that ad and going to your website. I love that, because if they click like or comment or see more, or they click to view the company page, all of those actions are free. But if you use the objectives that are like engagement, for instance, we end up having to use engagement for thought leader ads. On engagement, you pay for every kind of interaction on that ad. If someone hits like, you just paid whatever your bid was, $2 or $3. You paid $2 or $3 to get a like. If your ad copy goes longer than 2 lines and there's a little see more, someone clicks see more to read more of your text, boom, you just paid for a click. So that's why no matter what objective you're running, you can still look at the stat in your report that says the number of link clicks. That's what you want, is your link click-through rate to be over 1% for maximum delivery bidding to work. Otherwise, if you're not above that, don't worry about it. Just keep manual bidding and you'll get the lowest pricing. That's what LinkedIn doesn't want you to know. We had a really cool situation. We brought on a client who was already doing a pretty good job of, they were actually listeners of our podcast. They did a pretty good job with bidding and account structure in general, but they came to us and they said, hey, help us out here. I did exactly what we just talked about. For any campaign that was over a 1% click-through rate, I switched to maximum delivery. For all of those that were under, I would just bid only high enough just to spend the daily budget. What you see here on the slide was the effect. We literally, this is probably dropped traffic costs by 40 or 50%, maybe even higher. I can't quite read the numbers, but it's pretty awesome. This is the effect. Even if you're doing a lot of stuff right, there's always more that you can be doing. All right, so I also want to drop on you some really advanced targeting techniques. These are things that you can take home right now and do, or give it the weekend or something. But first off is, if you are targeting using skills targeting or groups targeting. I love both of those targeting methods. They're great. But what I want you to understand is, if you are targeting someone by their skill or their group, you have competitors. They might not be direct competitors, but they are competitors for that audience's attention. They also go and join the same groups and add the same skills to their profile. And if you show them ads, they're always going to be curious about what's getting the attention of their prospects. And so they will click, but they're not going to make a customer for you. So what I recommend is, anytime you use a skill or a group kind of targeting, you can add an exclusion of of job function. And you can say if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, or if you're in business development, those 3 job functions are the ones who would be actively trying to sell to my audience. I want to exclude them, and boom, you're clear. You just got rid of all of your competition who would be clicking, charging you money. The next is if you're specifically targeting small to medium-sized businesses. Just by raise of hands, anyone in here specifically want companies that are smaller than about 50 people? Do we have very many of those? Okay, we do. This is great. Here's a little hack. If you go and target by company size on LinkedIn, you say, I want to target companies 1 through 50 number of employees. The only way LinkedIn knows about that is if they went and created a company page on LinkedIn and declared, this is my size of company. But there's all of these unknowns. The LinkedIn members who haven't quite thought to launch a company page because they're too small, it never occurred to them, they've got bigger priorities, whatever, they are probably going to be smaller than 50 employees, but they're unknown. So what we do for those is rather than saying, I want to target 1 through 50, instead we exclude 51 and above. What that does, that exclusion automatically gives us the 1 to 50, but it also gives us the unknowns. The unknowns are not being targeted by your competitors. They're leaving them behind because they don't know about this, and you end up getting access to more of your target audience who are cheaper. They're less competitive. Very cool for you. All right. If you are wanting to use age or years of experience in your targeting, realize that those are, trying to think of the word that I call them, they're inferred metrics or inferred characteristics, meaning LinkedIn never asked you what your birth date was. They ask you what your birth date was, but not the year, so they don't actually know how old you are. So instead, what they do is they say, hey, when did they start their first position? Oh, most people graduate college and start their position around the age of 21 or something, and then they try to infer how old you are. Same thing with years of experience. Those are less accurate. What I would suggest is use seniority targeting instead. And then finally, there are 2 options inside of your LinkedIn campaign that LinkedIn will include by default. One of them is called LinkedIn Audience Expansion. It's a checkbox. Please, 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 always uncheck that box. LinkedIn, we pay a premium to advertise with this ability to be able to target someone by their job title and their industry and their company size and their past experience. We don't need to click a box that lets LinkedIn throw whoever they want into that audience. Always, always, always uncheck that box. Avoid it like COVID-19. The other option is called LinkedIn's Audience Network. This is where you can show ads off of LinkedIn. I haven't seen quality traffic come from it, honestly. I want this to work so badly. The traffic is a ton cheaper, but I'm not seeing quality signals come from it. So I can't verify that it's actually real humans who are doing the clicking. So I would suggest, at least starting off, uncheck or remove that option. Okay, there are some really cool retargeting things you can do. Why is retargeting so important? I'll tell you, every single client who comes to us, what they really want is meetings for their sales team. They want sales appointments, they want demos, sometimes it's a free trial. Every company wants these, but cold audiences are not ready to take that step. So if I just take my budget and say, okay, I'm gonna try to target call it our ICP, our ideal target audience, and I wanna get them right on the phone with our sales reps, you launch those ads, you see clicks happen because people are kind of passively curious doing research, but no one converts. Or if they do, they ghost the sales rep when it's time to actually hop on. And so it's not good. So here's why retargeting is so important. Retargeting is how you reach people that you know are not cold. They've had at least some meaningful interactions with you in the past. There is website retargeting on LinkedIn, just like there is on every other platform, which is like, yes, of course, please use it. What's powerful about LinkedIn's website retargeting, we can say, anyone who's landed on my website, great, let's target them, but let's layer on things like a level of seniority and what department they work in and what size of company. Let's not waste our time targeting people who maybe they made it to the website, but they're not an ideal target for us. So that's stuff that's like someone did something off of LinkedIn and then came back and gets targeted. But LinkedIn actually has some really cool, I call it new, some really cool new retargeting features. This is the stuff that happens on LinkedIn. This is someone clicked on one of my single image ads, or they watched at least 25% of one of my video ads, or they visited my company page on LinkedIn. Lots of these different options, and because they did that action on LinkedIn, they were logged in, LinkedIn knows their identity. They know exactly what they clicked and when. So if I go to set up a website retargeting audience today, and I say, hey LinkedIn, for the last 180 days, go pull everyone who landed on this website. LinkedIn's gonna go, I don't remember who was clicking on your website. But if you select some of these other options, the stuff that LinkedIn knows who it was, I can build an audience today and say, for the last 180 days or the last 365 days, go and build this retargeting audience for me. LinkedIn's gonna go, I remember. And so you'll have this audience that even if you forgot to build it earlier, you can still build it, and within usually 2 to 3 business days, you've got this audience ready to target. This is how you get demos. This is how you get sales appointments. You show those ads only to people who already know, like, and trust you. That's what you do through retargeting. All right, I'm gonna skip a little over this, but when I see people start campaigns on LinkedIn, they do a lot of things wrong that end up being messy and hard to manage in the future. So I'll just kind of very quickly cover this. For the campaign names, I see a lot of campaigns that are called like 2024 webinar or white paper 1. What a campaign actually represents, it represents the type of ad, the objective that you selected for that campaign. These are the things that are immutable. You can't change after you launch. And they represent the targeting of that audience. So what I recommend is when you actually build a campaign, call out all those things in the name of the campaign. You can use little like shortenings, like I do, like SC. That's how I know it's a single image ad. WV tells me it's the website visits objective, that kind of thing. Spell all of that stuff out in your campaigns, and now it's instantly easy to go through your account and report. You know exactly which campaign represents which audience. All right, the next one is, we see a lot of people who build large campaigns. Let's say it's one campaign. If you're trying to reach marketing decision makers, you might do job function of marketing, seniorities of manager and above. 2 things, really easy to hit. What you miss, though, is that the CMO is going to interact with your ads very differently from a marketing manager. And you wouldn't know because they're all in one conglomerated audience. So what I recommend doing, first, build separate campaigns for each. One might be just marketing managers. The next might be just marketing directors. Another one might be just marketing VPs. And the last one might be just CMOs. You don't have to build new creative for each of those. Just put the same A/B test of ads into each one that you were gonna do. But now you're reaching all the same people, but now you have intel. You know these ads are engaging to this audience at this rate. Sometimes, we hear this a lot where it's like, oh, if you wanna reach the C-suite, the people who are at the chief level of a company, we usually have to pay more for that. It means I've got to bid more. That's not the case. I've had cases where I did this exact test, and we paid less per click for CMOs than we did for managers. The way that worked is it just so happened that the ads that we launched were basically more speaking to a CMO level, and they engaged at a higher rate, so LinkedIn charged us less. Pretty cool. All right, and then finally, LinkedIn will give you recommendations for audience sizes that are quite large. LinkedIn wants to be Facebook. Facebook, yeah, if you have an audience with 1 million or more people, their machine learning, their AI can find the right people. It's amazing. LinkedIn does not have the same level of data as Meta. It doesn't know all of those data points about what you like, what you're interested in, and all of that. So LinkedIn wants you to have giant audience sizes so they can try to find the right people. So they'll tell you something like, hey, make sure you have at least 300,000 people in an audience. I do not disagree with that statement. I like to shoot for audiences between 20,000 and about 100,000. That is generally a really good audience size, which means I can take this larger audience, split it up into little pieces so that I can measure the differences between these. It's kind of like being able to run a silent focus group. You get intel on how certain of your audiences interact, what they care about, and you get to see it by how they actually act. It's pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna kind of skip through this, but the ideal building strategy, if you wanna build an account that is scalable, I call this like, even if you just drive to the grocery store, I call this building the Ferrari. If you wanna just build a Toyota just to get you there reliably, and that's fine, this is how I end up building the Ferrari. What I do is I take the same persona I wanna target, but I find different ways of targeting that same persona. So that might be, like if I'm targeting chief information officers or chief technology officers, I might do like the job title, that's easy. So I might have one campaign that's just the job title, CIO, CTO. I might have another one that's IT skills with a C level of seniority. That gets me CIOs and CTOs. I might have groups. I can target just people who are members of groups that are like CIOs and CTO groups. Pretty cool. I can also do job function and seniority to reach them. That's 3, 4 different ways of targeting exactly the same person. I can launch the same A/B test, the same 2 ads in all 3 or 4 of these campaigns. I leave it on LinkedIn's option that's default, which I actually like. It's optimized for performance. Basically means that whichever of these ads tends to get the higher engagement, show it more often. And what that gives me is this ability to see which of these audiences are the best performers. If I can find that, skills, way too broad, does not give us the right quality of leads, if I can find that out early on, I can funnel all of my budget in the future to the ones that are performing, and I don't have to waste money. I can spend money just on the stuff that I know works really well. Okay, this is the advanced presentation. So if you guys like these kinds of tips, I actually put together a whole guide. It's the ultimate LinkedIn ads advanced guide. You can get it for free by going to b2linked.com/advanced-guide. So many of the presenters put QR codes on their slides. Guys, that's brilliant. I didn't think to do that. So you are gonna have to actually type. I apologize. Next time, I swear, we're gonna have QR codes. That's a great free guide. I'm also the host of the LinkedIn Ads Show podcast, where I talk this geeky and even more geeky about LinkedIn ads every week. I even have product leaders at LinkedIn come on to talk about their products whenever we do interviews. So check that out if you're a podcast listener. And then finally, it's called the LinkedIn Ads Show. If you just search for LinkedIn ads, you're gonna see this chubby ginger smiling at you. It's gonna be easy to find. And then finally, if you're just getting started on LinkedIn ads, check out it's our free checklist. It actually started as a checklist, and then we turned it into like a 19-page guide. This is everything that I wanted to know when I was first starting to advertise on LinkedIn that I wish someone could have told me. This is absolutely free, b2linked.com/checklist. With that being said, we are at the Q&A slide, but I'm curious, how many minutes do we have? None. I'm off. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.